My name is Amelia. I grew up in a quiet town in northern England. It was a peaceful place with narrow streets, brick houses, and familiar faces. My parents were simple, kind-hearted people. We didn't have much money, but our home was always filled with warmth and love. From an early age, I believed that love and kindness could solve everything. I never imagined that one day I would feel so unwanted, not by strangers, but by people who were supposed to become my second family. I met Daniel at university. He was confident, intelligent, and came from a wealthy, well-known family. I was drawn to his calm presence and gentle words. Despite our different backgrounds, we connected deeply. He made me feel safe, and I believed we could build a future together. For 2 years, we dated. During that time, I met his parents a few times. They were polite, but always distant. They smiled with their lips, but not with their eyes. I thought they would warm up to me over time. I thought they would see that I truly loved their son. I was wrong. Our wedding was small, just a gathering of close family and friends. My family was full of joy, taking photos, sharing stories, laughing together. But Daniel's side was quiet. His mother barely looked at me. His father spent most of the evening speaking only to business guests. Still, I smiled through it all. I believed once they got to know me better, everything would change. After marriage, we moved into a lovely house near Daniel's parents. He wanted to stay close to them, and I didn't object. I thought it would help build our relationship with them. I imagined family dinners, holidays together, and shared memories. But reality was very different. Every time we visited his parents, I felt like I was walking into someone else's territory. His mother never asked me how I was. His father would barely acknowledge me. They acted like I was invisible. They never included me in conversations. Even when I tried to help in the kitchen or bring gifts, there was no appreciation. Just silence, or sometimes a forced smile that disappeared quickly. I began to question myself. Was I not good enough? Did I say something wrong? Was I not dressing the way they expected? I started changing myself. I wore the clothes I thought they would like. I brought expensive gifts. I learned about their interests just to have something to talk about. But none of it worked. Nothing changed. Sometimes Daniel's mother would invite him over and tell him not to bring me. He would go, thinking it was harmless. But every time he left without me, I felt more alone. Slowly, I stopped going altogether. I couldn't stand the silent judgment anymore. They criticized everything about me, but always behind a mask of politeness. They told Daniel I wasn't ready to be a wife. They said I didn't come from the kind of family they wanted for their son. They said I wouldn't understand their lifestyle. But they never said it directly to me. Instead, they made me feel it through every action, every look, every ignored word. Daniel loved me, but he didn't know how to handle the situation. He tried to stay neutral. He didn't want to hurt his parents. He didn't want to hurt me. So, he remained silent. But his silence felt like betrayal. I needed him to stand beside me, but he was always somewhere in the middle. I stopped going to family dinners. I stopped reaching out. I stayed home while Daniel visited them alone. I spent hours sitting in the living room, wondering how everything turned out like this. I had tried so hard to be accepted, but no one wanted me there. I remember once, Daniel's mother came to visit us unexpectedly. She looked around our living room and made a comment about how cheap everything looked. She said the space lacked elegance. I had spent weeks decorating that room, choosing every item with care. Her words crushed me. They questioned every decision we made as a couple. When we bought a new sofa, they asked why we didn't consult them. When we discussed starting a family, they said it was too soon. They never treated me like an adult, like someone capable of making choices. They saw me as a mistake their son had made. One day, I hosted a dinner and invited both families. I cleaned every corner of the house, cooked all their favorite dishes, and arranged everything perfectly. My parents arrived first and praised everything with warm smiles. Then Daniel's parents came. His mother looked around and said nothing. She sat down and started talking to Daniel about her garden. She ignored me the entire evening. That night, after everyone left, I sat on the floor and cried. I cried for hours. Daniel tried to comfort me, but the gap between us had grown too wide. I no longer knew if I belonged in his life. I no longer felt like his partner. I began journaling. I wrote down everything I felt. I wrote about the pain, the confusion, the loneliness. I began to see patterns. I realized I had lost myself trying to please people who never wanted me to succeed. I had stopped doing the things I loved. I had given up parts of myself. Slowly, I started doing little things for me. I read books I had long ignored. I went for walks in the park. I painted again. I listened to old songs that reminded me of better days. I started to remember who I was before I became someone's wife, someone's daughter-in-law. Then one evening, Daniel came home and told me his parents believed I was creating distance between him and them. He said he needed time to think. He said maybe we should take a break. My heart shattered. But I didn't cry that night. I packed a small bag and left. I moved into a tiny apartment across the city. It was quiet, empty, and unfamiliar. But for the first time in months, I could breathe. I wasn't being judged. I wasn't being watched. I was free. I started working longer hours, picking up new projects, and volunteering at a local community center. I spent time with people who saw me as a person, not a mistake. I was still hurt, but I was healing. I found peace in the silence of my new apartment. I learned to enjoy my own company again. I began waking up early and practicing mindfulness. I made myself breakfast, played soft music, and opened the windows to let in the morning light. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the weight of anyone's expectations. I met new people. A kind elderly woman in my building introduced me to her book club. I joined, and every week we met to discuss novels. It became something I looked forward to. I even began writing short stories again, something I used to love but gave up when life got too heavy. My words became my therapy. Each page helped me release the pain. I enrolled in a part-time course in interior design, something I had always dreamed of studying. The first time I presented a design project and received praise from my tutor, I felt something bloom inside me. I was still capable. I still had dreams. I still mattered. Months passed. One evening, I received a message from Daniel. He wanted to meet. We sat in a quiet cafe. He apologized. He said he had realized how much I had endured. He said he regretted not standing by me. But as he spoke, I felt calm, not because I wanted to return, but because I had already let go. I thanked him for the apology. I wished him well. But I told him I had built something beautiful from my pain. I told him I was no longer the woman who waited silently to be accepted. I had accepted myself. I had found strength in solitude. It wasn't easy. Healing never is. There were nights I still cried, memories that still haunted me. But with every sunrise, I felt a little stronger. I understood that being rejected by others doesn't mean we are less worthy. Sometimes, it means we're meant to build a new path. 1 year later, I started my own small design consultancy. I helped people turn houses into homes. I used every bit of creativity, pain, and love I had buried inside me. My clients saw my passion. They trusted me. And for the first time, I felt proud of who I had become. My story wasn't perfect, but it was mine. It taught me that not everyone will accept you, and that's okay. What matters most is whether you accept yourself. The world doesn't get to decide your value. You do. I share this story not for sympathy, but for strength. For every person who has felt like an outsider in their own life, for everyone who has tried to fit in and been pushed away, know this: you are not alone. You can survive. You can rebuild. And most importantly, you can rise. Sometimes, rejection is the very beginning of rediscovery.